one thing that I wanted to ask you guys that when we did one of our previous roundtables with the cinematographers, there seems to be a very, tightly knit community amongst them. And a lot of them were members of ISC, and they were like as thick as an overexposed negative. So is there any community that do you guys call each other? Do you exchange notes? Do you ask each other questions? Is there a community of sorts, formal or informal?
I don't know of one. Is there something
There used to be
secret?
a formal
There used to be
photographer.
one Photographers Guild of India, and before
PGI,
that there was IPA,
IPA and
Advertising
PGI.
Industry and Photographers Association.
He used the word used to, he said there used to be, and I'm saying there used to be.
Okay.
Many such attempts. I don't know what it is, whether photographers have very large egos or what, but somehow it's never worked together. I don't know why.
But now we can do it.
It's needed.
Yeah.
We all have our small groups and we interact with each other.
There used to
you
be
know.
that's true,
advertising photographers ka bhi tha,
But
and
then-
even your dad had started photographers, what was it, some just of documentary photographers, but that also didn't, that fizzled out.
It's necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
at
we
least
should
just
do one.
Even
something.
like Sir just said, they have their small groups, but for people like us, we don't have access to those groups.
We have
don't
this
have
group.
access.
No,
Yes,
groups
right.
in the
We are
sense like
saying-
I'll talk to him, I'll talk to
Correct.
Bharat, or
But
I'll
we
talk
would
to
never be able to
yeah,
call you
yeah.
as younger photographers.
Okay.
That now means obviously I've grown a lot more, but when I was younger, I used to look at your work. There was no way for us to. There was PGI, but it broke apart.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
and we must talk about that because it's actually very
It's
necessary,
very, very
especially for a
important.
younger generation of
But Ron, you
photographers
think
today.
it's sometimes it's the perception of the younger generation that we are not accessible?
Of course it is.
Yeah, of course.
If I was a kid, I wouldn't have the balls to
Please
pick
call,
up the
yaar,
phone
hum
and
to
call.
bol ke thak jate. Please call. The door
he's
is
right.
open.
No,
walk
Ron is
in.
right. Yeah.
But
From my
Ron is
time when I
right. But I'm
started,
just saying,
same thing,
how is
you
it
know.
happened?
We
Yeah.
needed
It's so sad.
we
if,
needed
if,
a body like this.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm interrupting, but we need it because you look at cinematographers, right?
They're so tightly
hardcore,
bound.
and yeah.
They're like
Industry.
this.
Yeah.
It's an industry. Why? Because you call there is a certain rate pre-lighting. There are certain parameters that they
Right.
will not compromise on.
Yeah.
and they work that way.
That makes sense.
The business of photography is not understood by most of the youth
Yeah.
who are picking
Yeah.
up cameras today. Because
that
it's
is the
easy to
reason
become a
also things are
photographer.
going
How do you
wrong.
make money off it?
Yeah.
business and history together, they need to be
Very
aware
important.
of.
Yeah.
History,
Any discipline,
because
actually,
otherwise
history is very
shooting in
Yeah.
a bubble.
Yeah.
So even like the very young photographers, they have no idea what is intellectual property rights, nothing. Because
Yeah.
there's no body as such for photographers
Yeah.
where they can come, enroll and learn from others or,
Yeah.
all of these small things. So
We can structure it up through our agency, through TAP, where because that's one of the first things that I missed when I actually came to India. Of course, I had Atul, I had Tarun, a lot of people to guide.
But that time it was alive.
Yeah.
PGI, at that time when you came,
Yeah.
PGI was there.
5, 6, 7, 7, 8, that
Yeah.
time.
You remember that?
Yeah,
that time
yeah,
it was still
But
there.
It was
Yeah, it
not
was
there.
Later on,
Yeah.
it was fantastic when that
Yeah.
was happening.
It was, and then I suddenly had this whole sort of massive wake-up call when I was shooting a campaign for Docomo, and I picked up the phone and I wanted to do it in a certain way. Of course, we need a certain specific structure of doing it. We were to shoot through glass and all that. And then I had some cost control, some telephone, the guy who talks to like telephone wire vendors or something, call me and negotiate on costs. And I just fell off the chair. I was like, dude, how does that even work? Because, I mean, if I'm trying to tell you that I'm going to shoot with this light and this is the studio that I need and this is the space that I need, you do not have the technical knowledge to understand and negotiate with me. So you're going to negotiations are baseless.
Baseless, yeah.
And you forget intellectual property, that's the far away.
Yeah.
Then actually what happened is then we started this whole concept of the artist project came in the head that because in New York, everywhere in the world, you have agencies who actually safeguard this whole concept of intellectual property rights, the business of photography. Otherwise, nobody will be able to eat. So that's what actually the whole thing started with that. And now, I'm very grateful for that sort of body to exist and watch my back, with Rohan. Everyone, at least it helps us sort of structure out somewhat. It will be amazing if we can actually make a proper, like producers have a body.
I have one thing to say, like you said, the film industry. There are lots of younger photographers who also work on set. They have no rights. They have no idea what's going on. They just have a camera and they're shooting.
And the raw dump idea. कि पूरा hard drive दो.
Of course.
They don't
I
have
mean,
a
क्यों
choice.
दो?
They're being arm twisted. because they don't have a union.
Right.
Whereas the lighting guy next to them will have a union. So
Right.
he can never be arm twisted. So
True.
that's my biggest fear, because when we say why is photography a dying medium, but if we itself are not together,
Yeah.
we'll die only. No?
But do you think that's also because photographers are lone wolves, kind of?
It's not so lone anymore,
But
you
there
know,
was a
in
PGI, it
advertising.
existed. And it worked really well with all these guys, and they had
But
a
I
structure
still think
to it.
PGI worked for the top guys. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Swapan, I was a member as an assistant.
Much later, probably.
No, 2007 I became a member as an
It
assistant.
worked?
At least I got some idea of what was going on.
So maybe we can take this WhatsApp group. That we
Yes, I
have
was going to say, I'm very,
and add Atul and
there
add
have been attempts.
Colston.
There have been attempts made. We tried one, I think,
Start with a
couple of
WhatsApp
years ago,
group to
no?
begin with.
Where there was a big panel of 50, 60 of us.
Yeah.
2 years ago, I think Colston had organized something.
Colston is very instrumental in this right now to revive it.
Yes.
Let's see if it works out.
So coming to the next question, all of you have practically, done photography and made films as well. So this multi-skill approach to photography, I think, is fairly recent. To my memory, I think possibly Shantanu Shori would have been the person to do it, with the Garden Vareli films. So now do you think that is it an aspirational thing for all photographers to step up and become filmmakers, or is it a necessity where the client tells you कि यार ये भी चाहिए, अच्छा आ रहे हो तो वीडियो भी शूट कर देना यार, क्यों नहीं कर सकते?
ये भी होता है।
कैमरा ही तो है,
रील बनानी है।
हाँ, रील बनानी है तो कर दो ना, कैमरा तो लाओ।
No, so either they will tell you do it, or they are saying like we are getting someone now.
The choice is.
Now the problem is that I'm lighting up the whole thing. I've built up the concept, sat with them for like
Set design is yours,
everything is
Yes.
like you've chosen a certain kind of a team, and then one guy will come with just video camera and
Or iPhone.
That's also true. And then on your set, on your lighting, everything he's shooting, and then suddenly it's his film.
And lots
So
of
then it
reels.
makes more sense that you may as well do
Might
it,
as well make it
or
yourself.
get
Yeah.
one of your assistants
Yeah,
to kind
you
of
keep
No,
a
and
team.
do that.
You
this guy
keep a
will
team
do it in
behind, yeah.
50,000 rupees because he's just doing that.
Yeah.
And that becomes your standard.
50,000.
Less than that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but I do think that sometimes choosing film, it's definitely not a step up because we do what we do in one frame, right?
Right.
But what happens is when I'm outdoor, for example, just for me, sometimes I can't tell a story in one frame. That's when I need to use film. And that's just a personal choice to tell something.
Right.
And that's a creative choice. But this side of the business side of it, where they are like, Avani, we need 8 photos and we need 5 reels.
Right.
I'm like, what do I do with your reels? And then they'll make you jump between, someone will be going round and round taking reels in the middle of the frame. So it's just demeaning the whole process and making it diluted because it needs to be properly managed, which a union or a group where you make certain rules, that would work. But personally, creatively, I enjoy film because as a creative, a visual creative, I would sometimes want to tell a story in...
No, as a personal choice, absolutely. I mean, everybody
No, but it
should
is
have
a need now. Whether
Yeah,
you
so
like
that's
it or
what I
not.
was saying. That
Hoardings are becoming movies now.
Yeah, it's all on
Hoarding is no
digital.
longer
the
no longer
LED
a still image.
screens, yeah.
Yeah. So everything is now moving towards entire social media. What used to be like 5 years ago is a still image that is going on the social media.
Right.
Everybody is doing reel now.
Video.
It's whether you like it or not, you have to transform yourself from being a standard photographer, but you need to have that advanced skills. Now, obviously, you need to learn editing, you need to learn music, you need to learn the
So coming to that,
color
so
grading and all that.
editing also. Now, do
Yeah.
you guys edit your own reels or how does it
We
work?
don't...
I don't make reels.
I don't make reels.
Okay,
But
you
at
don't
least
make
you
it.
need to know the
That's a
basics of it.
basics,
It's
yeah.
not that you need to be a craftsman of everything.
Right.
But what I'm saying is that at least you will need to. How do I
Understand
create a
how-
reel
yeah.
if I don't know what kind of music I'm going to put on?
Right.
If you don't know what kind of
I'm saying, look at.
I actually
just try and understand this.
saw
Look at
this
a hoarding, and a hoarding earlier was like booked for like 2 months for one picture.
Right.
Now that hoarding
Has
can
got
run
10,
multiple
15.
campaigns in one day.
Yeah.
Like 6 seconds for this one,
From a
then
client's
Apple campaign, then
perspective,
Google
though,
campaign, then
it
this
is so
campaign.
It's
funny,
because
right?
of
Because
digital.
his picture's there for 1 second and he's paying so much money for that hoarding. I don't understand that.
No, it's running in
No,
loop.
it's running in loop.
Running in
Yeah,
loop.
still,
After
but
some
loop-
time, it still comes.
Yeah,
you know?
but still, if the picture was permanent, I thought that's more value for money than the picture being on a loop.
It's the same
as
psychology,
Instagram.
like you're
Scrolling.
Scrolling is
It's the
just
same
same
as
dumb
thing.
scrolling.
So
Yeah,
how do you?
yeah.
So I think the brands are not building up brands now.
Yeah.
They are
Yes.
doing
That's what is
Yes.
happening.
So
We keep coming back
it's
to that,
about time
actually.
that photographers they start building up their own brand so that they'll bring something else on table.
Yeah, yeah.
So Rohan, what do you tell a client when they ask you to shoot a reel?
I don't know how to make a reel. That's literally what I tell them. Unfortunately, I mean, again, if I may for 2 minutes, I'll just give you a little bit of history with my thing with video. Like the bigger question that you asked was, is it
a transition? Is it a step up?
Because everybody asks me that same question, like, oh, post photography, are you going to make a movie or get into ad filmmaking, etc., etc. And I actually moved to New York in 2012, and I was studying filmmaking there for 2 years. And I realized through my own personal journey that I didn't like video. And it's not a natural progression. But why I moved there was because everything in Times Square was already in video hoardings at the time. So I realized that was where it was going to be no matter what. So even though I know how to do it, it's not a medium I enjoy. Like she said, when you're speaking of photography itself, you're looking at life in still. And that's how I've been frozen in that space. Like I don't know, I'm not good with camera angles. I'm not good with that movement of so when I was in film school, I was literally like Roman Polanski putting a camera on a tripod and pulling focus. That's all I was doing because I was making everybody else do everything else.
But incidentally, some of the
It's
best
interesting,
filmmakers
yeah.
are photographers. Roman Polanski was a photographer.
There you go.
I couldn't think only beyond, like, it didn't appeal to me.
Yeah, but also like photography, filmmaking, it's not a step up or a...
It's definitely
Or
not
it's
a
not-
step
they're all
up.
very different.
Yeah. Let's not
different
call
for
it
me.
that.
Yeah, it's not a transition at all also.
The prices
It's
don't
a little
differ?
transition, I would say. Like I've done
prices don't differ?
multiple
Oh,
films.
massively.
No, I
differ
mean, your
massively.
budgets will change.
As a
but
director, as a DP, or as a photographer, there's all different kinds of rates,
Yeah.
which are not even, you can't even compare. It's weird.
Even a reel maker.
Yes. That's a separate thing.
There are reel makers who charge cheap, but there are reel makers who also charge a lot of money.
yeah.
And they do a damn good job, even though they're shooting on an iPhone and a gimbal.
Wow. Okay.
I couldn't hack this because I got so many scripts to do and they all were termed as reels after we did a bunch of films for Levi's, but the writing wasn't the same. Because even if you're doing a reel, you got to do it seriously.
Yeah,
it has to be a
Yeah,
process.
there's
Exactly.
a difference in film and reel.
Yeah.
And also in
there's a
terms
big
of
difference.
production and
Yeah,
everything,
so I
you need,
wanted to treat it
That
like,
is what is going to change now. The more and more agencies and clients will insist on the reel itself is a good
Film.
content material as
Yeah,
a film,
yeah. So I want
rather
to
than
grade
just
it, I want to shoot it
doing
well.
it
I
outside.
want to shoot it with a...
Yeah, it is every reel is film.
Yeah.
But the seriousness should come.
Seriousness has to be there.
That's
otherwise-
what
Like
was
what's
missing.
that's what Prada did, right? Last season, they hired like 5 best filmmakers in the world to make
yeah,
reels.
yeah.
You have seen
Chanel
them?
also did one.
Yeah, so
To make
I think
reels?
it's,
Yes.
Yeah, it is changing.
Reels means like those vertical
vertical
videos, but they got
format
like the
videos.
best guys in the world to do it.
I mean, you know, El Grande Bellezza, the movie, Bulgari got that guy to do
Wow.
a reel for them. So there needs. I don't see Raymond's.
Yeah,
in it.
yeah,
Sorry,
it's-
I'm saying
it's-
it, but
it's a
I
good
don't
thing.
see
It might happen.
I don't.
It might happen.
Because
you know,
I
the
don't see
seriousness
some.
of it. Yeah.
Rangaswamy
No, I
accountant
think-
sitting
no, now
down
I
and
think-
thinking, okay, my reel needs to, sorry, my reel needs to look like that. It'll
No,
take
the
time.
mindset has
No,
to
no,
change
that
from
will-
the
It
client
is
side. It
happening
will
because
happen.
we see
That
so
has
many
to come.
TVCs shooting in a vertical format these days. Yeah.
Also,
Like
TV,
main
TV
shooting-
as a
yeah,
medium
so-
is dying.
vertical, yeah.
True.
Let's be
Yeah,
honest.
so
I
slowly.
don't even own a set-top box anymore.
Right.
We have an Apple TV. Everything is digital.
Yeah.
So who watches local channels anymore? You're not making TVCs for TV anymore.
No,
You're making it for digital consumption, which is
Yeah.
YouTube.
Yeah, only thing is digital now.
Yeah. So it's
that's all
YouTube, Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah.
Those are the mediums that.
But
we're
that
looking
also
at.
means it's that tiny, which is
No,
really.
you can see it on bigger screens.
Yeah,
It
but
depends
I'm
on
saying-
the person who's consuming
Yeah,
the content.
but
You're
most
giving
of
that
it is-
person the option.
Yeah, but it's most of it is that much only.
Phone.
But even
Yeah.
movies are being watched at that stage. Right?
Oh.
So it's not that.
That is
it's not that.
that
only
is
your
the natural
advertising or
progression.
photography.
Yeah,
is being
it's
watched
all
there.
of
My
it.
So it's
concern is
everything.
that you might get the best of talent and the best of
Yeah,
gear
it's
to
open.
do the reels, so to speak. But what are you going to do about the attention spans and the 3-second shelf life of
Yeah,
that?
it's not more than 5 seconds.
Yeah.
No, it's not true. If the content is good,
Yes.
it travels.
It will
It
go.
So
will
at the
travel.
end of the
Yeah.
day,
Will go
content
viral.
is the king. Yeah, it's
That's the
you
word.
need to. That's no. I mean, whether you like it, want to call it viral or
Right.
if the content is really good, people will share.
Yeah.
People will interact with it. People will do all sorts of things, which is what the typical advertising used to do on the television.
Yeah.
Right.
So if at the end of the day, whether you like it or not, we can sit here till cows come home. Your image, your idea or your concept, as far as advertising is concerned, I'm talking about the journalism, if it is not entertaining,
does not have those
it's not going to fly.
Yeah.
So the content is the king, whether you like it or not.
And today if you check statistics, your consumption of your content is primarily between the ages of 17 to 28 roughly, because that's the people that are on the phone most.
Right. Coming back to skills, how many of you edit your own images?
Edit?
I do definitely.
Select.
Process. Not
we all would process our own.
process.
We all do that.
Yeah, I think all
Sometimes
of us.
retouching gets a little annoying when it's a lot
Right.
of imagery, but grade and color and looking at all of that is,
So that you have to do to control the look, right? And
Yeah, because it's a mood.
It's almost like a
color
DI
also.
zone.
yeah,
It's like-
absolutely. You,
I'm the odd one out.
but you print your own
So
images.
unmanipulated, uncropped was my conditions. When I say unmanipulated, you're not adding pixels.
Adding.
You're not adding the cloud there, the bird there. So that is sacrilege till date, any photography
Right.
that I do. Processing wise, limited to conventional darkroom techniques.
Yes.
Like you do your
Contrast,
color,
dodging,
dodge. No, colors, this, that. Whatever you need to realize your vision at the point of shooting what you've seen. It's like shooting a raw image. A raw file is going to be very flat. A negative. A negative is going to be flat. You just put in the enlarger and stand there, you're going to get a shit print.
Yeah.
You need to have the right paper
Chemical
there. You need to
paper,
start burning. You might take 4 hours to make one print because you're like burning that area, that whatever. You know whatever takes for it to reach what you saw at the moment of shooting.
Right.
That much I would restrict my work to.
Right.
Till date, any genre that I do.
Yeah.
It's sacrilege for me. I'm not saying this for others, to move anything else in the picture.
Right.
It is as is, shot, raw file can be checked, or the actual file can be checked, it will be the same.
What about you, Arjun?
Yeah, so I believe in editing my own images, also because you have your vision and you've shot it a certain way. Because in a world like today, it's more of digital imaging than just photography. Of course, I totally agree with your point. But practically in the advertising and commercial world, it's more of digital imaging. Although we love our craft and we do our own artwork and everything that we'd like to, but sometimes you'll have to cater to, or many times rather in this commercial industry. So you'll want to have at least editing it at your control, because everything else has gone out of control already because someone's put together the model for you, the background for you, blah 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 blah, which at least this much you can get it done tastefully in how you've envisioned, rather than giving it to someone to totally destroy it.
Yes,
I think that way, I'm very particular to edit it in-house.
But what about skin? I mean, your photographs have play such an important part. So
that's one of the main reasons I do not get my images out without editing at all.
Okay.
As in terms of tasteful editing, rather than sending it out for someone else to do something on it, which will make it very different from what you've envisioned.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you do your own retouching and the skin work and all of that.
Yes, as in not me, but my team in-house.
Yes. Okay. Internally.
Yeah.
Internally.
It's so interesting. Using the word edit, the first thing that occurred to me, edit means you select
Selection,
the frame.
yeah.
Selection of the
Oh,
frame.
yeah,
Okay. I'm
that
like,
was
edit,
my mistake.
editing.
Yeah, so
it's not a mistake. It is today in today's
Yeah.
terminology. I realize when they say edit, it means working on the
Retouching,
post-production.
and that. So, हमारे case में edit means
Edit means selection.
चलो, we've
Selecting
shot
the
these 20 frames, so which is the frame we are picking? So that's edit.
True.
Yeah,
So,
but these days you don't even get the freedom to pick your frames.
Yeah.
The client. So at least the post-production is something that,
Something, you're getting
That's why
something.
photo books.
Yeah.
You would sit down and
Yeah,
decide
but
what
the
you want
truth
to do.
is that you do end up moving things, you do end up deleting things in advertising.
Right.
And sometimes it doesn't work for you also, because there are certain things on a set or outdoor or in a studio you don't like. They will ask you to remove it, they will ask you to tweak it. So the truth about advertising is we're selling a product. You can get creative with it, but there are certain things that will have to be removed. Like you have to tweak. Right? You have to change certain colors. You have to maybe remove the tar from, those things will happen. So nothing is untouchable anymore.
Right.
Can I ask you a question now? And I want to know. Okay, suppose there's a photo contest now today, right?
That's a different thing.
No, allow me to. What should be the rules there? Because I'm planning to start something in my dad's name. I'm just kind of coming out in the open and saying, empowers younger photographers to get.
So that's journalistic stuff. And
no, it's not journalistic. I just don't want
it's street life.
No, it's not at all.
No, you cannot say, you can have a photo contest, but you can't remove elements.
Okay, this is the way I am going
You're talking about advertising.
No, I'm talking about all genres of photography. I'm not saying that this can't be done. If I were to say that there is a photo contest of a certain kind, I personally would make it in the rules that it's please enter if it is the integrity of the frame is there, even if it's an ad shot, a wedding shot, or journalism, or journalism is also used very loosely, and street photography, the word is used very loosely. हम advertising नहीं करते तो हम street photographer.
That's not
So no, I'm trying to say that a contest, like for me, if I'm going to float a contest and the genre is not going to be, it could be fashion also, it could be, but I would definitely make one of the rules, get photography की बात कर रहे हैं, and when you're coming out in the open for photography, please, okay, do your color corrections, do everything, but if you're moving something, then please don't enter this contest.
That's your photo contact.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
you can ask for a raw image. You can ask for a raw
That's
image.
what I'm trying to say. This is what I would like.
This is your rule. But in advertising, the truth is you cannot have that rule.
No, we did have it for 40
but
years.
But now
we
we
did
don't
it.
anymore. So I guess it's different.
I understand. But I'm saying there's nothing. There's not a this versus that.
No, also they didn't have it because they couldn't, right? Because the Photoshop was your darkroom.
Also now, I don't think that
Photoshop existed when there was film also.
No, I'm talking about way far away.
Way far ahead. Even when I started, when I was in 1982, there was Photoshop, or at least the likes
that
of it.
was very, very limited.
No, Comart and all these people, they used to do it.
Also, I'll tell you one thing, that in today's time, it's not just one person who's approving the image.
Yes, absolutely.
No, correct.
Like not only the creative director or agency, there are client and then servicing and the servicing and all that. So there are multiple
Then what's the big deal? You take a picture, add a bird.
But that's not the thing. The thing is, we are at the end of the day in advertising selling a product. And if that means removing something, a wire from somewhere or doing something, we're open to doing everything when we choose to sell a product. And I do believe that everyone has retouched something at some point in our lives, whether it is a line, like a
backdrop or whatever, or a
shadow. It has to be done aesthetically well.
Yes, it has to be. And when I go and shoot something personal, so like when I do shoot for myself, I am literally looking at the whole frame as nothing can be changed. It will be that frame. But when I'm shooting for somebody else, I need to know what they want, the client wants, what the agency wants, what the CD wants.
Yeah.
So it is a lot of people. It's not yours alone anymore.
Yeah.
But that used to even happen pehle,
No,
pehle bhi tha. It's become easier now.
No.
With access
in olden days, to accommodate Swapan's stubbornness, we used to change the hoarding sizes. I can't take 1:3. So we used to tell media guys, don't take 1:3, 1:4 size, because the picture, if I'm using bleed, it cannot be used. So I mean, it's like, the integrity of, respecting the photographer was slightly more higher in those days.
You don't have your son who's working as a creative director?
Stop it.
Who thinks like you, and we can work with him,
But that was the truth. Whether you like it or not, this is what happened.
Yeah.
So the thing is, today, thanks to media, has changed. I mean, imagine digital banner is 1:10.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, why Photoshop is, devising this AI method to extend the background seamlessly. I mean, you don't need to worry about, how do I extend, because earlier we used to sit at Comart for 10 hours to get the extension done correctly.
Or shoot plates.
Shoot plates separately and then do it in Photoshop. So in advertising, whether you want, it's like if I'm doing a typography ad, and if I'm doing vertical and then suddenly I'm doing horizontal, I need to get the balance right. So what somebody said, aesthetics we need to handle when you're doing retouching for advertising, that has to be controlled by the photographer or the art director who is sensible.
Right.
Yeah.
Ideally photographer as far as the image is concerned.
Yeah.
If you put yourself out as an artist,
Right.
and advertising becomes slightly like a prostitution to a certain extent, whether you like it or not, that word, but you are catering to the needs
Of somebody else.
of the somebody else's,
Yeah.
and for that you have to be flexible. Now you can be sensitive and say I won't be flexible. That's fair enough, because that's personal view versus non-personal view. I mean, there are enough guys like United Colors of Benetton photographer. He doesn't allow anybody to touch till today, and it's beautiful. It will run only in double spread ad. He shoots only 30. I mean, that's
Oliviero Toscani.
beautiful.
Toscani.
Huh?
Toscani.
I mean, that's brilliant. LaChapelle will never allow you to touch. He will create this crazy imagery. But nothing is touched.
But then there's budget also, and there's respect also.
The thing is, it's all about sensitivities, how sensible and sensitive you are towards your communication, towards your art, towards your craft.
Sorry, Prashant, I'm interjecting. I tell you, LaChapelle though, by the way, I assisted him for a year.
I also assisted him when he came to Mumbai.
Yeah, and
I took him to the red light area.
yeah, he shot
all that.
a book called
Those pictures in LaChapelle land.
Yes.
There's
I
a
was
book
with
he
him
did.
at that time.
Yeah, he did a book called Artists and
And he's
Prostitutes.
just throwing away dollars to people. And,
No, so
That's
LaChapelle,
crazy.
in fact, you'd be shocked. He created an entire image, shot everything in a studio, and it looks like they're on a location, and it's everything is completely fabricated. Everything.
But he actually shot a lot in Mumbai. When he came for New School, that's when
So what are you saying? He takes the troubles
created the images.
it's
Everything
fair
was
enough.
fake.
So,
It was
I mean,
insane to watch.
that's the love for the craft, and then I'm not going to
and-
compromise as far as this is
And he
concerned.
put the whole thing together.
fair
I had a
enough.
retoucher sitting in Canada, and he shot like some weird stuff in a studio.
Wow.
Like this guy pouring water and all that. And then when I saw the final spread, beautiful though, seamlessly they've put the guy in a location where he's putting, and this is many years ago. Beautifully done.
But that's still his vision. Only his
Yeah,
vision.
so
He
you're
saw
not
it.
just a
That's
photographer,
right.
you're a creative now.
Yeah.
Because you have so many tools to play around with.
I mean, you can use tool of Photoshop or AI or whatever to create your art.
Yeah.
But it's still your vision.
It's your vision.
Not five people. 5 people are not controlling that.
So what happens to the photograph? So what happens? The premise has become that anything you see with a doubt.
In commercial, yes.
No,
Yes,
I'm just extending the.
Yeah, in commercial photography,
can.
yes.
No, but everything. Suppose you've shot something, you bring it out there. You bring out your book. Suppose I bring out my book. Suppose unfortunately, everything is viewed with a doubt. कि ये picture इतनी बेहतरीन है, तो इसमें ज़रूर कुछ
काम किया होगा.
काम
Yeah, very true, very true. I've heard that a lot.
retrospectively
Both
now,
very
retrospectively my work, if
doubt
you were
will
to
come.
see,
Yeah.
वो bird, अभी का कोई बंदा देखे बोले ये तो bird plant किया.
ऐसे तो
And we used
नहीं
to
सोचती
bloody-
मैं, लेकिन फिर
No,
भी.
no, I would. I agree
मतलब
with
I don't
you.
think so. I see your image and I'm like, yeah, it's a real moment.
But if
because
you
I'm-
didn't know
Yeah, but
that's his
that's
image,
you.
if
Like-
you
No,
just
I
saw it
don't
on
think.
Instagram.
Actually, I don't really think that यहाँ से क्या compositing क्या की है. I generally think an
No,
image
but
is
if
an
it-
image.
Say for instance, if it's an image which is abstract
a
and
art
it's pretty
versus
out there.
commercial.
like this, that picture of the death of the computer. Now, when we created,
Yes.
it was like, मतलब
Created
coffee
that.
shop में बैठा, अरे ये बंदा, इसको, we are literally borrowing from life, casting from life, real people, imagining a war-torn zone in Bosnia, right? And saying, yeah, मुझे advertising में लाना, and everything there. The negative is one piece, like the fish is flying, it's one piece. So working towards that. So now, I mean, I just feel that the need ke if I'm seeing where I'm seeing that image, what is the integrity of that image? The doubt comes in my head कि अगर ये आप लोग के साथ होता है कि when you see an image, is there a doubt? For me, it's that I don't want that to happen because I'm believing that if this image is in this arena, I'm not saying advertising, I'm just throwing it open. If it's in this arena, it's the photographer's responsibility to have that integrity to
No.
Sorry.
He's
sorry.
right.
and there are
No,
certain
that's
contests
the kind- no,
where the
it's the
do's
kind
and
of
don'ts are so
photography you're
listed.
doing,
It depends on the
I
kind
say
of
that,
work.
that is also important.
Yeah.
I'm saying that is also important.
Like you look at David LaChapelle's work, right? Or Stephen, in fact, when he's now graduated to shooting a lot of work now, if you see, it's super highly retouched, manipulated, digitally, and gone are the days when Stephen Klein used to shoot on 8x10 Polaroid where everything was just actually the same, nothing was touched. Now it's actually a very manipulated image.
And that's by conscious.
Yeah,
conscious.
and
He's
I'm
saying
not
it.
and I'm not saying it's not beautiful. It's just a different aesthetic. Like there's a lot.
Don't
And
get
it's a
me
vision.
wrong. I'm not
But he
not
intended
questioning the aesthetic.
to
I'm
shoot that way,
I mean, certain
Yeah.
The approach
manipulation is
different.
required. It's a
Approach is
different
different.
arena,
Yeah.
different approach.
That's a created,
Now,
crafted.
Yes,
and
that's
digitally
nothing
made,
against that.
digital
That's
image.
completely valid.
And then there is.
I find the pretending pictures, the pictures that pretend to be real,
But
when
not.
the bubble is burst, that these are actually that. That's where my problem is.
I am very much against touching
Welcome
up.
to AI.
I'm very much against, like my father has not touched a thing in his frame. He has waited, whether it takes a day or 2 days or 5 days to take that image. He will not remove or add a thing. When I go and shoot, where you go 7 to 9 a.m., when you do that, I do not touch a thing.
Same. Yeah.
But when I'm working with 20 people and 5 people have a point of view, then I have to work with what I have to deliver. Yeah.
Advertising is a different story.
Yeah.
When you're working for a
So we
client
can't mix
versus
two
when you're
things.
working
Yes,
for
These
you.
are
it's
two
a
different
very- it's a
mediums,
different
and
world.
the
Right.
language to
It's
work
commission, right?
and the workflow is very different in both the cases.
Yeah.
You're doing it for somebody
Sometimes
else.
you will have a client who would come to you for you. Now those are, there's some, I'm very lucky to have a couple now working, and they will come to me for me, and that is not in
where
India,
it can
unfortunately, and that is beautiful. Then that's all I did. I just gave them prints.
Yeah, just like how he said, like, there's so much effort gone into, your making those filters and all that. But when people see it, they doubt.
Yeah.
Unless,
That's the fundamental question.
unless you've told them.
Yeah.
Even human relations today, as of today, every relation starts on doubt.
Yeah.
Ye mera kya? Then comes trust, and then you reach a
It's
point.
going to get worse, by the way.
Everything starts with doubt. You'll meet somebody, "Arey, this guy's come to meet me, isko kya kaam?" It's just so
It's going to
sad.
get worse.
The Philosophers Roundtable.
So all of us are philosophers, but we may not choose words to become a philosopher.
No, the words are pretty much there.
No, we may not. I'm saying when we practice.
So moving one step ahead, so again, AI is being used now to manipulate stuff which might be perceptible, might not be, perceptible. So how much of it do you encounter in your work as of today?
Not yet.
Oh, it's happened to me once, very badly.
yet.
Very badly.
What
It
is
was
that?
a magazine cover, and they AI'd the whole face and skin and everything, and they produced it in 2 hours. And I'm retouching, sitting and figuring out what to do with my team. And they are saying, "Nahi, iska skin theek aise hona hai." Face structure has changed. I'm looking before and after, and I'm like, you post-produce my image to another image.
So they used your image as a base.
Was the cover,
and then
they changed the cover according to what works for the face and the body.
wow.
Yeah, that's happened to me once. Then I was like, no one is touching my work.
But whether we like it or not, it's coming.
I think
mean, as
be
working
embrace it or
professional.
be left behind kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But do you envision a future where, like how we do, right? Like create a photograph of XYZ in the style of Rid Burman wearing a blue.
I do see it. It's going to happen.
But at least in the advertising world where 90% of the brands endorse celebrities,
Right.
I think photography is still
Yeah.
Thank God.
not going to go anywhere.
No, what's going to happen?
See, I'll tell you what
No, but,
can happen also, that, say for example, there is a very big superstar, and there'll be a very good chance that, I know that there is something in San Francisco where they have this whole 360 degree
scan.
thing. So they scan the whole face.
Whole wireframe is
and then that film star can sell, "Ki, I have that right here, why do you need a photographer?"
What they did to Shah
Take
Rukh
it
Khan.
from
That's
that.
what's going to happen.
Yeah.
When
That is
that
very
happens,
short.
yes.
I
then
actually,
there is a-
I have
issue.
to say this. There was an ad shoot 2 months ago that I was supposed to do. I did it. It was a 3-day job. They scanned the actor, his entire body, 360 degrees, and he didn't have to come for the second and the third day, which means none of us had to work for the second and the third day. And that is a reality.
I feel a lot of industry is going to get wiped out.
Which is
I'll tell you, styling, makeup artist, related to us, I'm talking. Us, many industries going to wipe out. Modeling agencies. Yeah, and that's the reality. It's the truth. If you see internationally, a lot of brands are shooting already. Not shooting, they're making campaigns on AI.
Yeah.
So many industries, what happened after iPhone?
Yeah.
So many industries just wiped out. So that's going to happen, and that's the truth. And
Or
it's
maybe,
just a few years, I feel.
we'll be sitting with a completely different role without a camera, but your vision
Yeah,
matters.
maybe your vision
Maybe
is
your
what you're paid
vision
for and not
matters.
your
I don't
photograph.
think so anybody has a choice for this.
And if in case that transition happen, I think all of us need to embrace it then.
Yeah. Then fight it. You can't.
See, like we don't go to the labs now. We don't deal with the chemicals now. We are not dealing with the paper and chemical and projectors and all that. Now we are sitting in front of the computer, and we are already retouching our images.
Right.
Yeah.
So same thing will happen. Maybe we'll be making images there.
Right,
The role will
right.
change, but if you have your thought process right, if you have your sensibility and all that, somebody wants your vision, maybe they'll hire you for your vision to take that campaign forward.
But this happened to me. Like I got a lot of briefs,
Generated
once for some campaigns we generated on AI. and we sent the cost and we were waiting for feedback. But by the time those same ads were released with the logos.
The ones that you had generated as a
No, not
reference.
me, which they have sent me for the cost.
Oh, wow.
So that's what I'm saying. You know, he's going to wipe out so many things in like a second.
You know, production design and all that. The
Everything.
scale of production is definitely going to
Your
get
travel,
smaller.
Yes.
For example,
everything.
car photography is all done by
Yeah, that's
computer.
done.
I know.
it's not-
That's already
of course.
done.
That has
All the-
gone out of the
gone
world.
out.
the
That's what I'm
spaces
saying.
and all.
Perfect.
What happens to observation? What happens to the smaller nuances?
So those-
AI is learning that also
That
because
also.
it's learning from
No.
I mean,
Machine
billions of
learning.
people.
what I'll
point
say-
of view.
The guy who will give
But
the prompts will become
I'm
the
not,
hero.
I'm not pegging one against the other. I'm saying as a practitioner, what do you feel about that? You're talking of the commerce part and what's happening in the commercial world. But I'm saying as a image maker, as a photographer, what happens to things that you've observed or
So,
seeing and all? Then you
Swapan, I
just make
think-
your own little book and
Yeah, that's
be
what he
happy.
said.
That's
No,
it.
but
what he said.
I
Swapan,
think
you have to
if
live
Don't do it for money anymore.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
Then give less.
Do it.
Bubble and share it with others.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
do it
that
for
bubble,
yourself.
whoever you want to include
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
that bubble is your
Yeah.
bubble.
No, and also I think your images, what he's talking about live, if you haven't seen or observed light hitting you in a certain way, or if you haven't observed, the hand of a mother on a child's head in a particular way, you will not be able to give those prompts. So also the thing is that, when AI, the generative, image generative AI came out, if you went to, Midjourney, you could only see Da Vinci or Picasso clones, because 99% of the people just knew these two names.
Yeah,
And it was only later that people started saying, yeah, acha, or painters. Now you need to know those painters if you need to, kind of ask AI to figure
Yeah.
out. AI knows, but what are you going to ask it?
A photographer knows that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
A
yeah.
photographer's vision is that if I will go and shoot
This is
in
what I-
Greece, in Santorini, I'll shoot like this.
Like this.
Okay. So maybe he'll be hired to create an image which he can only create.
Right.
Or
You
she.
know, Or she. Or she.
But
you know.
that for that he has to do the basic
Yeah,
handheld photography.
So if you work hard to get there. That means if you know the craft well,
Yeah.
you can still use it.
Yeah.
I
Like
think
we
it
all
all
did.
boils
We
down to
all
like this, like
transitioned from
film
film
to
to
digital.
From digital.
Photoshop and digital because of
Remember
that.
there used to be
only.
this film TCN 100, old Kodak film. TCN
Yeah, yeah.
100. It had a lot of red in the film, right? And then at some point it actually used to be used for films.
Yeah.
And then there was this remjet layer. You took that out,
Took it
and
out,
then
yeah.
you processed it with different chemicals. So
Yeah.
then the base, all your highlights were never white,
Right.
but your highlights had a beautiful tone of red to it.
Red
I
is the edges, yeah.
Yeah.
Hell-
Or you
yeah.
pre-flash a paper. Right, you take a
Yeah,
printing
solarize the paper,
Exactly.
without the lens.
Exactly.
Yeah, we
You
used to
take
do
it,
that,
you
yeah.
do a very small, because then it kills your contrast.
Yeah.
You can prompt this stuff to AI,
Wow.
Wow.
right? So when you're creating an image and you said you want to do an image RID style,
Right.
that's the prompt.
So speaking of which, the solarization process, film is making a comeback in a big way in the, at least the newer photographers who want to experience something slow, amateurs, advanced amateurs. Is it making a comeback in the professional, commercial
Abroad it has,
spaces?
in a big way.
I think people
Not
like
in
to
India,
live in the past.
Not in India yet.
Okay.
Yeah, like he said, the cameras are retros, and because that there is
Nostalgia.
a bit of a nostalgia,
Right.
which also that it also means newspaper never died, right? We thought the digital.
Yeah, I still have my
So,
newspaper
so
delivered every
there
morning
is
and I
there is
read
going
it,
to be a
with my
role
coffee
of a
in the morning
photographer
to,
which will create the original image. That's what he will be paid for in a large sums, or may not be anything. But there will be a job like that, and there will be a AI generated campaigns or photographs or whatever that can happen in future.
It'll split.
It will split.
Yeah,
Because
but
the
I have an
post-processing
interesting,
of it in
you know-
India does not exist. It's
Sorry?
like the post-processing of film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Forget
You don't
my
have the
personal opinion
infrastructure
on it.
support is
Yeah,
not
we
there.
don't have that.
Very
Yeah, right now we don't.
Yeah.
We don't have
We
the
used to
industry
have,
for
yeah.
Also-
the support system is not there.
Also, what is happening? There's a problem that I see. A lot of photographers are using film now, all right, just to be different. Her father says, if you want to punish someone, give them film.
Yeah.
I also believe
I
that
also
now.
believe
I also feel that I enjoy digital. There's nothing about
I love it.
digital that's bad. It's allowing you more latitude, everything. Film was great. Reid has said something, correct me if I'm wrong, is that if you want to slow down, it is a tool to slow you down. But then have the mental faculty to use that to its advantage, not just write it on your landing page, campaign shot on film.
Yeah, no.
So it's like, it's an
that.
ornament.
No, you
Off late,
Yeah,
when you see a lot of pages, I'm like, okay, you shot it on film. Where are the images? The images are so ordinary. Even on film, by film standards, very bad. So if you're doing it for that reason, it's 100, and I think 99.9% are doing it for that reason.
I agree.
And it's that 0.1% for doing it to slow down, or who have the vision to make film also look great. Because kitna shoot karoge? Everyone stands at one place and shoots 500 frames of the same thing. What's the point? With film, then I think a lot of us who shot on film, I think the value of that is
One
still
click,
there. Abhi bhi main motor drive pe nahi.
One click.
Pata nahi, I want to
मैंने लगाया ही नहीं motor drive.
हाँ, लगाना है जब चाहिए तब चाप दबाओ.
Yes, when you need it.
Fooल उड़े. So I don't enjoy that. Maybe people do, but I just feel that film का क्या reason है. Plus it's become very fashionable to say film.
Yeah.
I'm different.
The grain and some this and
I'm
that.
different.
But when I went to my dad and I said, "Meko sikhao," and I went to him so many times saying, "Papa, you have films. Teach me how to shoot on film," which I have to figure out, which I ended up figuring out on my own. He said, you focus on framing, seeing what you're shooting. Don't waste time trying to be romantic about the idea of film. Because he's like, focus on the moment. You've got digital. You can learn film whenever you want, but get the moment right first.
I met her father at Kumbh Mela. And he was like a child showing me. First time he was probably shooting on the digital or whatever.
Yeah.
He was so excited.
Yeah.
And he's like, look at this, Tarun. Like, look at this, what all I can do now. Look at, he was going berserk. He was like a child that day.
It's very
at the
forgiving.
airport we were sitting. And he just
Digital
showing
is
me
very
each and every frame.
And you can't go wrong. You can chimp it and
Clean up your shit. Give someone film to really know how bad they are.
It's so beautiful to sort of, there's something so beautiful about going back to the dark room and then sort of printing.
I remember, like, I was working with Hardev Singh and he had the Jobo machine for processing the. So we were like, every day we were seeing all this.
No, it's.
But bigger picture, nobody's going to ask you after seeing an image. Is it shot on film
or digital?
They'll say it's a beautiful shot or no?
That's it.
You know what I mean?
They have had so much more discipline in shooting on, like, I know my father shot on 35mm for 15 years.
Yes.
He knows, when I was shooting the film on him and I was making that film on him, I was in my early 20s and all, he would look at my lens from the other side of the camera and say, what the hell is your lens, your framing? So the discipline of people who shot on film, they knew that 25mm, they knew that 30mm, 40mm. We don't, we're like going.
You're only getting 10, sorry, I'm interjecting again, I'm sorry.
No, it's
You have a 2470.
You only
you don't know
that
what
many
50,
exposures,
56 or 50.
Also, we were only allowed to use for one picture, we were only allowed to use like 2 Polaroids and maybe 2 rolls or whatever, something like that. If you are a cool photographer, maybe 3 rolls, but 2 rolls. They are not paying otherwise. Like for anything above that, they are not paying.
But I think coming back to the technicality of it, you name Bresson, you name all these streets, like Vinogrand or whoever, Raghu Uncle. The cameras, they used to just know
exactly
with their finger. So it used to be at an f8. And if it's a situation which is unraveling in front of you, right, you're not going to get a second chance. Your exposure has to be right. Framing has to be right.
Absolutely.
Flex used to be right. Bresson never used to go wrong by more than a third of a stop. And they used to have these contests in Magnum. They founded Magnum. And they used to, like, in between them talk, what's the light? So Bresson used to say, okay, 30th 5.6, 30th f4. Invariably, he was down there to 1/3 of a stop, not even one stop yet.
But see that.
Right? And, okay, Avni's at 5 feet, This is 5 feet on a Leica. This is 3 feet on a Leica. This is 8 feet on a Leica. So, that's it. I mean, Raghuveer Singh, look at our...
Wow.
Man, I mean, and he shot in 25 ASA, 64 ASA Kodak.
Kodak. But I know of stories where my dad put the camera into some bag and he's only having his hand there and shooting away.
No, shooting from the hip.
Because he
Shooting
knows.
from the hip.
And he's gone into very, very conflicted areas and he's taken pool mein ghusa ke kahin pe and he's shooting. He knows what he's shooting.
Your frame.
Because there was like...
But he knows the distance, the exposure.
Absolutely.
Everything is.
So I think your relationship with the camera, I mean, what I find about film is that
it's a part of your body.
It's a part of your body and I think the basic thing for me is your relationship with light. When I tell people to shoot film at least once or try. So the thing is that, when you were just talking about it, that if I say that, what is the reading on my face? Today, the people would not know.
That's because they've taken digital for granted.
Yeah. So the thing is that, your camera is doing all the calculation, and God help you if you're on auto ISO. So, so you wouldn't know, you would not even, know what the basic photography, right? Your relationship with light is just not there.
So the only thing that's yours is your vision.
Yeah.
Everything else has been replaced by 3 buttons at the back of the camera.
Yeah. Not even
so
3
10
anymore.
years if you give 3 buttons at the back of the camera, 30 years of you just learning how to get it right.
Yeah.
Pehle to hota tha na, pehle first 15 years, please don't show your work.
Right.
Because just to hone the skills which are undeciphered, like, you're getting the reading right, everything right. That took 15 years. Uske pehle kisi ko kaam mat dekha so that you have it right. Then the moment came.
But phone photographers, now there's something called phone photographers.
Of course.
Ab unko to, you're talking to someone who's done great imagery, you're explaining to them what ISO means. Because ISO exposure to you can just do this, no? On a phone.
Like
the square, the sun,
Yeah.
But see, when you're shooting on phone,
Last 8 years, I have not shot with a camera.
No, but
only shooting
you have the lineage and
Yes.
all that 30, 40 years of all the amazing framing, thought process. You started at the dark room, right? So the understanding of tone, not, color, grayscale, light, all that. You're bringing all that. Now the medium doesn't matter. If you look at Picasso's bulls, right? When he drew the first bull, there was so much detail in the bull. Everything, all the veins to everything. The last bull that he drew when he died was 4 lines. So that's the journey, right? Now, the problem is a lot of people want to start at the last bull with 4 lines. That's not correct. You got to
travel.
The journey.
Call it the journey from awe to awesome. It's a long journey.
So that's the, you see what I mean? You can't just sort of, you see, and this, I saw this happen to India when I came back from New York in 2008. And, there was still like this beautiful, Polaroid transfers. I don't know if you remember this process, right?
Yeah.
Took the Polaroid, you put it in the water, let the emulsion come out, then you took a paper and popped it on top. All those small elements and things like that, right? Didn't come only. It went straight from shooting film to digital.
Right.
All those processes in the middle.
It was too fast.
Wiped out.
Yes.
Just
Completely wiped out.
Nobody went through it. And then when you're trying to explain that, it just doesn't. So then, so that journey never happened to a lot of people.
Okay. Tell me about your favorite campaign. What was it?
Is it me or no? If it's somebody else?
It'll come to everybody.
Oh, God.
So you have time.
You have to start
More experience.
My favorite.
You may or may not want to name the brand. That's okay. But if it's your favorite, you can.
Tough question, actually.
Yeah, it's a very tough
Very
question.
tough question. There are many favorites, actually.
Okay.
But, can't pinpoint one. I used to love Swapan's work, still those images in my mind when I saw just now on television. They're beautiful. They used to inspire us, all of us, I guess. They were so beautiful. And I used to wonder how he did it, That was amazing, if you ask me, to be honest. See, I'm getting goosebumps.
Really. Swapan, what about you?
For me, I don't think it was just limited to advertising, When you I don't know if you're mentioning our own campaign or anybody's work.
Anybody's, actually.
I don't know. I mean, for me, it can't be then just advertising. I mean, I enjoyed it a lot. And I think for me, if I think about in my personal work, the computer campaign or even quieter campaigns, there were so many. So I'm like, but I feel the one where I would come back and really feel, Aaj dadagiri hui hai. It's extremely difficult to answer, but I guess I just shot something just now on the side. Just now, when we took a break. That is more important now. It's what you're going to do after this, because you go through everything and it's like a sieve, no? When you start, it's like, oh, you think all this is good. And dhire dhire, multiple sieves, and it trickles down to something so fine, which others may not find very spectacular. But I think I've started liking the unspectacular more than the spectacular, because I think spectacular it's something you can keep going back to, and unspectacular is something you may just miss.
No, so again, there are lots of campaigns which was impressed the hell out of me. Because the only one thing that I always look at any campaign is how did they do this? I mean, if that thing comes in your head,
Right.
And that's what is the great campaign. Whether it's your campaign or somebody else's campaign, if that guy can surprise the shit out of you, then that's the...
So could you give an example of that?
No, so I mean, Prasad did one campaign with me, and people ask me, how did you guys do this? I've done enough campaigns with Swapan, and people ask me, how did you do this? I mean, it's overall, when you look at the great campaigns, that's what happens. That should happen. Right. It should stop you. People should not move. Their eyes should be frozen. And that's what it
The
should.
answers are very simple.
Yeah.
If you were standing there, you would have seen that. It actually happened.
What was the campaign that you're referring to?
W.
Okay.
So like everybody's saying, like, there are multiple of them, like, there's so many of them. But there's one campaign which I shot many years back. And then, I don't know whether that was Digjam or... And you also shot in Palace with Meghna Reddy.
Oh, the Jaisalmer.
Jaisalmer thing. Oh. And I also shot the same thing, and I'm looking at his campaign and I'm saying, like, what the hell is happening here?
See, this
Means
is
like, I was shooting in a completely different way, and then this guy comes and he just took it to another level, and I'm like, this is like in a palace, the water is flowing, like a river is flowing, like, they were not humans, they were like a river flowing through the palace.
For me also, that was something where I shot it like a film.
And I'm saying like,
it's more organic.
Don't make your legs into a tripod. I keep telling people.
Nice.
Why is that my campaign was so static and he's like flowing like water, So that was, and because that was...
I should have shown that.
I guess that was the only campaign you've done for fashion or whatever, like,
No,
lifestyle.
Okay. Yeah, you can sip on. Yeah, well, probably.
Yeah, there's nobody smoking in those ads.
Nobody smoking in that. It was building a brand. They were building a brand. They wanted Godfrey Phillips wanted.
So we actually I also shot and you also shot and so and they were like completely two different bodies of work. So
fantastic.
I was completely blown away.
Thank you. So sweet of you.
I know this campaign with Meghna.
Yeah, even I
remember.
Yeah.
I can't think of, I mean, it's a very...
Too broad.
Yeah, it's too broad. And I also feel like in my feeling of it, sometimes I'm just like, I wish I had taken this picture.
Yeah,
I wish I was there for this.
Yeah.
That's a feeling I get very often.
Yeah.
But usually, because I haven't seen so much, I've seen enough work. I see more of Magnum and I see more of street life. I see people who I generally see which are timeless rather than trendy.
Right.
And I try to put those things in my head. With that, I like he was talking about William Klein, Sebastian Salgado and all. These are people that I could see over and over again. Right? But campaign I won't be able to answer.
Okay. Fair enough. Rohan?
Similar. I mean, if you're asking me about my own work, I don't attach myself so much.
Okay.
I don't.
Somebody else's then.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I was just finishing. I don't take myself as seriously in terms of as a photographer to attach myself that much to my work in terms of advertising, especially. So it's like, it's done, it's dusted, it's a job. That's how I look at it. In terms of personal work, it's separate. But if you're looking at sheer advertising per se, I feel like at this point right now, it's all glossy. Everything is so in your face, loud, color, everything is loud, and I find like there's a lack of authenticity and there's also a lack of emotion from your ads. You're looking at cool shit. Like even if you're watching a Marvel movie today, it's all about what's cool, what's larger than life, and that's the way we've been heading. So if I find anything that actually moves me here, I think that's more important because then that's the message that's actually conveyed.
Right.
Like a Google ad between that India and Pakistan family.
Fantastic.
Amit Sharma's ad. That's actually something that it will remain in my head. Years have gone by,
right?
But it's still there. And it's such a small thing. It's just a conversation between two old men, And
True.
It doesn't necessarily have to have the gloss or the this and that.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, but I do want to add that usually the kind of freedom and the respect as a creative thinking person international brands give you is much more, you have a lot more freedom and you're respected way more because they come to you for you.
Right.
They're not coming to you for a business or dhanda of it.
Right.
So I enjoy working internationally way more. I don't do as much as he does, but I'm just about kind of doing stuff now, but I'm enjoying those, whether it's editorial or it is advertising. I just enjoy the process and I love collaboration there.
Arjun.
Well, campaigns to me, I think, like they mentioned, when you see a campaign and you're like, how the hell did they do it? Like, wow. So I think that factor is something that always, stays in my head even after a long time. And that's what makes me wonder how, or rather, I would say, I mean, the moment when you look at something and you say, how the hell did they do that? That means there's something that you can look up to that picture, as a campaign, because it's not regular anymore. There has been several campaigns in my life that I've made it look that way. But again, all of them change, every 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, they change. There are several, but there are few campaigns that I've shot 10 years ago, which are still great now.
Yeah.
But there are a few which looked really great before, but okay now.
Haven't aged
yeah,
well.
but so I think also how we evolve over the years, our perception towards what is good, what is great, what's good, bad, I think kind of also differs.
Rid.
Nice. There are many that I love.
Yeah, but
I'm not talking about my work, but
yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. Yeah.
Swapan's campaigns. There's the ICICI campaign that I will never forget. It's just beautiful. Of the guys, the old couple standing with the tarpaulin and all that.
Yeah.
What's spoken to me though throughout, and it can be in any discipline. It can be in fashion, it can be in lifestyle, it can be in campaign for medicines, it can be campaign for cigarettes, it can be campaign, is sort of this sort of untouched, very raw approach to the thought. I've really loved that. Of course, I do a lot of work which is completely very far away from it, but that's advertising, very different. But campaign that have really spoken to me as an artist, some of those for sure. Like I am obsessed with a lot of old Japanese photography from the 80s and 90s, so there's Araki, Nobuashi Araki.
Yeah.
There's also Kaizo Kitajima. I don't know if very few people are familiar with his work, but he used to do a lot of campaigns in the 80s for a Japanese brand called Comme des Garçons.
Okay.
Right? Very famous. Rei Kawaku, a very famous designer. She used to do these crazy, sort of beautiful, shaped-oriented, right?
I have that book.
Do you have Kaizo Kitajima's book? So there we go. You've seen those campaigns that he's did. It's so simple.
Yeah.
Right? But there is something so invaluably sort of striking. It's, he's documented sort of migrants in New York moving in.
Okay.
And the campaign is all about getting away from your comfort zone. There are no clothes in that campaign, only expressions. But just that sort of space, and that thought.
Wonderful.
That stuff is quite amazing, I think. So there's like even William Klein stuff that he mixed when he shot fashion, right? So some of that stuff when he shot.
It was a mix, a beautiful mix of street and fashion, and you didn't know where to place it.
Yeah.
That's what is timeless.
Some of the greatest fashion photographers have been street photographers.
Look at Guy Bourdin, right? Guy Bourdin's work. Then he used to do this stuff for this shoe company called Charles Jourdan or something. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's a French shoe company. And he'd shot these sort of moments where it's almost like, a girl at the back of a car with her legs up and there's an airplane flying. These just sort of really, it's also kind of street, but very different approach to where it's.
And the thing is, you can't put it in, ye street hai ya ye fashion hai. Is this
You
this
can't.
or
You
is
can't.
this that?
It's fine art maybe.
It's an image in itself.
Like
It's a fine art image.
Yeah.
Like if you see Bharat's work,
Yeah.
it's like it's documenting a moment right now. What's happening
so
with the
beautiful.
fashion and its fusion. It's so beautiful, amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, that brings us to the last question. What advice would you give to people starting out today as photographers?
Assist.
Assist.
Oh my God!
I was going to say the same thing.
Definitely.
Assist.
For more than 1 year.
Yeah.
Or
Assist
6
for a
months.
few years, please. Couple of years at least.
See, I didn't assist, so I think maybe I need to go assist. Today I'm coming to your side.
No, we're not talking about. See, you've been a natural assistant to your father.
Exactly.
Held the camera. You've seen around. You've been on set. You've held a reflector for him. I'm sure at one point in your life, right?
Reflector?
I don't
Not
think
really.
so.
Not
Yeah,
like
whatever. He doesn't. Maybe he doesn't shoot like that. Sorry.
He doesn't use anything. He doesn't need anyone. In fact, he'll tell you to.
Yeah, but there is something, right? There is.
I know
So-
it's been around.
Yeah.
I've been jumping around.
So
negatives and-
that I think
Yeah.
is very important.
Yeah, I get that. I think for me, I would say even my father couldn't help me when I took a bad photo. So what I did and what I realized I have to do is take photos. Because my fight was, if he is a photographer and I have a camera, then am I his daughter who's a photographer? And initially I would fight with him, saying, "Nahi, why should I shoot the way you're telling me? I'm not you." He's like, "But then it's not a nice frame." I'm like, "But who? You decide it's a nice frame?" Then at that point, I'm like, I can't base my argument on intangible conversation. I have to have a tangible image to show that, hey, but this is me. Or at least I'm attempting to find myself here. So for me, the only exercise was go shoot. So I could come with, now I can produce, like I just came back from Ladakh, I've produced a separate book in 5 days. Because I go crazy shooting. That's the only thing that I had learned to find my identity in. Because I had to fight someone else's, right? So that was a personal experience.
But there's always been a structure to sort of show you, right? There was camera, there was lenses, there was an idea of framing.
Little influence of
there
being
was
in
that,
the family.
Right?
Always.
So
You had a very low intensity, but for a longer period of time.
And also the camera on me, which was damn annoying
Like
also.
Rohan said, Nepo kids. I mean,
Coming to you, Raman.
No assist.
Assist?
I'm literally echoing his thoughts.
Okay.
I'm finding
I heard
But
you.
again, assist somebody who's good and knows the basics well, because there are so many of them.
And as an
Right now, they
assistant, give a shit. You know, assistants should give a shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Fuck, it's really hard. Sorry, for the younger generation just wants things very quickly right now.
And too many rules that we never followed. Like, I will only do this at this point. Arey, but when the shot is taken 3 hours later, what are you going to do? Go home?
No, I mean,
It's tougher now. I just find it people want to quit quickly.
yeah.
Yeah, I think
When I was
this generation
assisting-
is a little too fragile for
And then they
this
have a
whole
social
work,
media
really.
outburst also. So you're scared to tell them anything.
Yeah. You get media shamed.
I had,
There you go.
when I was assisting, I didn't sleep for three days. You know, we're just mounting lights in Palm Springs in the middle of the bloody desert outside Los Angeles for three days because some Madonna is coming. We need to make sure this doesn't look. She wants special hand soap. Bloody drove 6 hours to get the hand soap.
But
and
now
come
your
back.
assistant will ask you for a work-life balance.
So it's.
It happens.
I mean, I'm not saying okay. I said
Yeah,
that
and
was
don't
extreme
call
in a
me at this
different
time.
way,
That's
but
why.
it doesn't. You know,
It's important that they realize that there's a lot of hard work. You know, like he said when he spoke about the Picasso painting, they want to start from the end wala bull.
Right.
There's a lot of hard work to get to that end wala bull. Like when
Absolutely.
people ask me, why do you charge the way you charge? And I'm like, bro, I've done this for 15 years.
Yeah.
You know, I'm coming with experience as well. I don't need to just justify the fact that I have a portfolio to back it.
Yeah. Who was that who said it took me 15 years to become an overnight success? I think
In
it's
my
true.
head, it was Diljit.
Tarun.
Same thing, assist. Because I also assisted for almost like 6-7 years.
8 years.
You know?
5-6 years. for me.
You assisted Atul, right?
No, I assisted Hardev Singh
Hardev
and then some more than 2.5 years to Atul and then Prabhudo.
Wow.
And with Prabhudo, I was, even when I started, whenever he was shooting, he used to just call me and I used to, like, you know, so.
Yeah,
And all my assistants, those who worked with me, they all stay there for like 4 years.
They've all done well.
5 years.
Yeah.
It also allows you
Yeah.
to shed your ego, I feel.
Yeah.
Sorry?
It allows you to shed your ego.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
and just actually work for the craft.
Yeah.
As opposed to like positioning yourself a certain way and how you want people to see you. Something bullshit at
So
the
I
end
find
of
it
the day.
very surprising and strange coming from you guys who have been to some of the best institutes in the world, you know, emphasizing on this part because it's usually a camp, this or that. Ki
You
wahan
learn
jaun
more
ya
there as an
assist karo,
assistant.
Okay. What advice? So you have to shoot. Like she said, 1,000 photographs a day, 2,000, whatever you want to shoot.
Yeah.
But in advertising, you become a thinking photographer. Don't just follow what art director is saying. You need to understand what are you trying to communicate and how do I achieve it. That's the most important thing as far as a young photographer who wants to get into advertising. Because most of the guys are actually follower. I mean, when Swapan or Prasad or Prabhudo, they used to sit with the campaign and say, you know, this cannot be this way. We should shoot it this way. Because that thinking, advertising, thinking and making the image better is more important than just being a technically correct photographer. Because technically correct photographer, if I want, and why should I go to Swapan or Film or anybody? I need somebody who is going to add value to my campaign.
Yeah.
So you need to be a slightly more than just a photographer.
Right.
So you need to understand bit of advertising, bit of marketing, because that's what, I mean, any
communication actually.
Yeah, you need to understand communication, and then how I'm going to put that
into
and
the
how
photograph.
I'm bringing my-ness into the photograph is very important.
Swapan.
I don't know, I'm just summing up whatever everyone said. I'm just thinking of maybe it's like, I read this somewhere, I don't know where, but if you want to see the rainbow, you got to learn to get wet.
Yeah.
You'll have to learn to get wet. And then at the end of the day, coming back, shedding egos and all, we're just going to be raindrops on a windscreen. We'll also be wiped out one day.
Yeah.
So we just, I guess, in other words, that you got to be out there, you got to learn to keep seeing. And I personally feel you should learn to see in absolutely the ordinary, and that will help you in whatever genre that you're practicing, whether it's advertising, whether it's documentary, whether it's personal work. I mean, you have to borrow from life. And that, I think, is the greatest tutorial.
Teacher,
yeah.
That's the greatest teacher. And everything else sounds very philosophical, but it's not.
Yeah.
Like as Prashant said, you have to keep shooting. But I don't agree that you have to keep shooting and keep shooting and keep shooting, but reach a point where at the point of shooting, you recognize that, this is recognized imagery.
Yeah.
I don't want to shoot.
Yeah.
The opposite. Okay, alag lagna nahi hai. And you want that out of body experience, that to surprise yourself. How many ever years you've been practicing? You want to surprise yourself, and then you become your own client.
Yeah.
That is what I
I'm
feel.
your own client. That's great, actually.
So just to add to Swapan, I feel, like new kids, they need to travel, see the world, wherever possible, It could be here, India, Bombay, anywhere. Meet people, experience that, add all that life into your work, maybe, that could be.
That's nice.
The way.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So on the back of that, one quick question. Can you recommend one book that people need to read or see to be able to further their vision or exposure in photography?
I think John Sarkowski's work.
It was very good.
That's it. I mean, he was one of the greatest writers of photography.
Susan Sontag.
Susan Sanders.
And that was a little old school, no?
Yeah.
But I think
But that is reading,
John
right?
Sarkowski's
That's pure reading.
Yeah, that's
very
pure
good.
looking at
Yeah.
pictures. What is it called? John Sarkowski's work. Looking at pictures. I'm very, very bad at all this. But we all had this
In photography or something. I forgot.
But he covered everything.
Yeah. I know. And then there's Susan Sontag
Very good.
on photography.
That was Susan. Sorry, Susan's book was on
Yeah.
All of Raghuveer Singh's work. Of course.
Yeah,
And
I think
Eggleston's
all of
work
Raghuveer
and
Singh's
Friedlander's
work.
work.
Neil Freeland, my God.
Sebastian
Neil
Salgado.
Freeland is.
Sorry?
They're the beautiful
Salgado.
exhibition right now in Paris.
Sebastian
Was a
Salgado.
favorite once upon a time.
Everything, gold,
Everything,
oil,
everything. Yeah.
and the works.
Yeah. Again, William Klein, I
William
keep
Klein.
going back to all the time.
Well,
Vinogran.
what about Raghu Rai's books?
Raghu Rai's.
I mean, that's what I grew up looking
Books
at.
with
by the way.
multiple S's.
Yeah.
I'm still
looked at,
coming
like,
out.
Kolkata.
That's on my coffee table, is there every day.
Yeah.
You
No,
should
but
wait
for
for
me, I think-
Swapan's book.
We have to wait for that.
Yeah.
I've seen
But
one.
we can definitely recommend.
Yes, no, it's going to come. It's going to come. I'm saying it on camera.
You gotta
Very
do
soon.
it, man.
Like, I don't
Coming
know
soon.
the name, but I've seen this beautiful book of just the shadows. It's so beautiful. You know what I mean?
nice.
It's
But
nothing.
the
It's
Japanese
so simple and
photographers, though,
beautiful.
some of them, the kind of work
Tell us
that
some
are-
names.
Yeah.
There's Kaizo Kitajima. Rohan, you got the book. So that
Spell
his
it out,
work-
please, for the camera.
K-E-F. I don't know, I can do it.
You can send it on the WhatsApp group.
I'll send you on the WhatsApp group. Yeah, there you go. Good,
You
thank
can
you.
type it niche.
Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah.
Kaizo Kitajima, very beautiful work.
Okay.
I'm obsessing with this stuff.
Raste mein, if you say this very fast, someone will say same to you.
There's Amrita Shergill's father.
Yeah.
He photographed Amrita Shergill very beautifully.
Who?
Okay.
Devika Daulat Singh has all the
archives.
but the two volumes, they are beautiful. This is like
Okay.
then, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Rohan, we haven't heard one from you.
Well, I'm obsessed with Irving Penn's books.
They're
Oh,
beautiful.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Okay.
Like obsessed.
I
Ever
printed
since-
for him.
Fantastic.
In
What?
New York. Yeah.
Shut up.
I printed for him.
My God.
Wow.
A
Yeah.
couple of war photographers also.
I wish I knew their names.
James
Ro-
Nachway.
Nachway.
and Robert
Yeah.
Well,
Kappa.
Eugene Smith.
Yes.
Eugene
James
Smith.
Smith, William
Magnum
Eggleston,
photographer.
very
William
tough to buy.
Eggleston.
William
Oh,
Eggleston.
Oh, William Eggleston's
Yeah.
incredible. Yeah, I have the
And
book. Yeah.
all of Raghuveer Singh's work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm saying
yeah.
this because he's our
William
own.
Eggleston's amazing. the sense of color.
Yeah.
Martin Parr as well, very different kind of work.
Beautiful.
But yeah,
Beautiful.
almost again timeless.
Diary of a Century by Lartigue.
Diary of a Century by?
Lartigue.
Okay.
He was discovered at the age of 90.
90.
And he had his
Wow.
whole body of work.
Even the
And now there's a new book called Lartigue in Color, which is unbelievably hard to believe that Lartigue in Color. But trust me, if this work was discovered before Eggleston, I'm going on camera and saying this would have been considered the guy who changed color photography.
There's also, I'm forgetting, there's also a Chinese photographer called Ren Hang, Renhang. You guys should look at the work. My God, it's so sensitive. He committed suicide.
I'll not remember
Yeah,
these
can you
names.
please put
All
some
these
names?
Chinese and Japanese photographers you're naming, I cannot name them.
Yeah, put it on the group.
Yeah, put it on.
And I'll be doing my dad's book, Bangladesh, A Brutal Birth.
Oh, that's
my
huge.
God, I
It's
was-
considered
yeah,
one
I
of
got
the-
it.
Outstanding.
Yeah, that's
That's just in
Looking
war
forward.
photography, I think.
yeah.
Superb. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for
Thank
giving us
you.
your time.
It's a pleasure.
From everybody here at Good Ads
And
Matter.
all these people who've been working so
Yeah.
hard.
Yes.
Thank you.
We need to
I'll
thank
say
them.
good art matters.
Good art. matters.
Good
Good
Ads
art
Matters.
matters.
So it's really been a pleasure for me. I've really learned so much from all of you, and I'm going back really inspired. and I hope that everybody who watches this will feel the same. So thank you once again,
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
and we'll see you
Thank you.
maybe
for,
the next time.
Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sweet.